Hey everybody, my name is Julie. Sorry not to be in your meeting yesterday. That was a miscommunication. So I'm just going to run through quickly what I'd have said to you yesterday. And the good news about this is obviously you can stop and start the video when you need to. Just get that cursor out of the way. So this is going to be a bit of a practical session. So you might want to pause the video now. Just go, you'll need a pen and a big piece of paper. And it's really just a chance for you to reflect. So if you want to go and get a piece of pen and paper, and then I'm going to set up the screen share, and then we'll get started, and I'll tell you a bit more about me and my role at the training school. Okay, so okay. So welcome back. Hopefully you've got your paper, and my Zoom is going to screen share. So yeah, my role within the training school is to be here to help and support you and get you through the course feeling really vibrant and healthy and well and feeling good about yourself. And so I'm, yeah, so that's me. Here we go. So I do a load of things. I've got my own website. I write books. I life coach, I write for Psychology's magazine, and I've got an academic side to me. And why is that of any interest to you? Well, it's because my job is to support you. So again, if you need to press pause and just have a look at any of this, but basically the easier one probably to talk about is academic support. So you'll have some fantastic support from the university. You've got great tutors, you'll have subject tutors. They did some amazing online CPD while we've been locked down. So, you know, you'll get lots of support there. And sometimes people just want a bit of hand holding, maybe just want someone to read through an essay, or if you can't get started on an essay and you want some help structuring, then that's where I can come in. So when it comes to essay writing, then don't hesitate to get in touch with me. The email that I've put up here is my home email, because over the summer holidays, that's the one I'll be checking most. So if there's anything that you have a panic about that's to do with well-being, then get in touch with me. If I can't answer it, then I'll you know, tell you how to get in touch with Kate. So if you have a look at some of the things down that list, I can help you with time management, confidence, but there's a long list, and all of that can look quite negative. So obviously we know you're adult learners, you're often coming with families or having come from places of work, and so that's got its own kind of juggling for you to do. So part of my role is I'll meet with you regularly, whether for 20 minutes or half an hour on a kind of rolling program. And in those 20 minutes, we'll start off by just getting to know each other a little bit. But then as the year goes on, it's just a safe space for you to talk about whatever is going on with you. So I'm one of the very few people, I don't know how many people you'll come into contact with, who aren't judging you in some way. So I am a teacher. I teach psychology in 2 schools, and I teach for the Open University, but I'm not going to be grading your lessons. I'm not going to be, you know, in any way involved in your lesson observations, but I do know about teaching. So that's one of the things you might talk to me about. Also, obviously the academic stuff I can help you with, but I'm not involved in any of the marking. So I'm one of the few people who you can be completely candid with. I'll talk about confidentiality in a minute, without fear of being judged or having that, you know, affect how you're seen. People do talk about family life. My role is not just to support your school-based stuff, because obviously our understanding is that what happens outside life obviously impacts school. So where it's a holistic support that we're offering for you. And in those regular conversations, also my role is to help you see what's going really well, what your strengths are, and to be someone, you know, to celebrate with you, because often what happens is that people get so fixated on what they need to develop next that they're not actually going, wow, look what I did. So that's part of what my role is. So here's the confidentiality boundaries, and they sound pretty gruesome, and I want to reassure you that actually this has never happened, but we have to have them in place to protect you, but also to protect me and protect the institution. So if you tell me in one of the sessions that you're being harmed in any way, so that could be a domestic abuse situation, or if you're harming someone, so it could be children, could be other people. If you're self-harming, and the range of self-harm is could include, for example, if I think that your alcohol use has gone through the roof, and you're worrying about it, then that might be an indication. Self-harm isn't just what you would normally think of with younger people. Obviously, suicide, depression. If you tell me about someone who's being harmed, then again, that would be something. And the final bullet point there is if I feel that your practice in school is such that it would bring the school and teaching into ill repute, and obviously the child protection issues, which you'll go through very soon in the course. So all of those things are things that I would immediately pass on, and the person I would pass it on to is Kate, who you've met, and then Kate would decide where that went from there. I wouldn't go behind your back. If in a session you told me one of these things, I would say, right, we need to pass that on to Kate. We'd have that conversation, you know, we'd decide whether you told her or I told her, we'd go together, we'd go apart, etc. So you would be included in that process, but just to be really clear that they're the boundaries. However, you can see that most of you won't be talking about any of that. So anything other than that is, you can talk to me about that. And I don't keep notes. I don't put notes on files anywhere. So what you say to me stays in the room between the two of us, or in the meeting between the two of us. Okay, so this is where your bit of paper comes in. So ignore the fact that I've got a whatever sided shape that is. So if you draw a big circle, massive circle now in the middle of your page, and then put a dot in the middle. So if I just explain this, and then you can press pause when you do it, and then you can start me again when you're ready. So what you're going to do is a big circle, dot in the middle, and then you're going to, the title of this is my well-being wheel. So you're going to think about all the things that you know keep you well, and I mean well in the broadest of senses, so psychologically, physically, relationally, all of those things. So for example, this is one that I was kind of doing, that I know that I need water, I need to eat regularly otherwise, and I need, so I could have, when I look at food, I could have broken that down into the types of food that I know I'm better off for eating, and also I might have put down the foods that I'm worse off for eating. And then exercise for me is something, so but again, I could have been more specific. I could have put down walking or yoga or both. So what you're going to do is you're going to do your circle, put a dot in the middle, and then you're going to put spokes out, so to the sides of the wheel, and label on each of those spokes what are the things that you know that want to keep you well. So you might be you know, a night out with friends, it might be a lie-in on Saturday, but the more specific that you can be, the better. Okay, so that's the first step. So you might want to press pause there. Okay, so now you've got the spokes on your wheel and you've labeled them, and the next thing to do is to think about, right now, today, whatever time of day you're doing this, then put a dot on each line for how well you are meeting that wellness need. So for example, if you look at this one in front of you, when I was doing this, I obviously sleep, so 0 is right in the middle, so it means that I'm not doing very well with that. But so if you look at sleep and fresh air, when I was doing this, I obviously felt that on that day I'd had enough sleep and I'd had enough fresh air, because that's kind of really full up. Those dots are right at the end of the circle. But it looks like I felt like I hadn't had enough exercise that day, or that it wasn't a disaster, so it wasn't right down in the middle, but it's by far the lowest point. So the dot on that line is the lowest point. So you're just going to put a dot on the line for, if it's close to the middle, it means, oh my goodness, I'm not meeting that well-being need at all. If you're right out to the edge of the line, it means, yeah, okay, I'm meeting that well-being need pretty well. So again, press pause if you want to, and do that. Okay, and so now you're back. I'm just having a fidget. If you want to join the dots, like we're just doing, then do that. So you can sort of get a shape and start to see, well, how's your well-being wheel looking at. Now, if there's someone that you want to do this with, you could also, this I think works quite nicely as a family, or, as a couple, or with a friend, or with somebody else on the course if you connected with someone when you were in. It can be quite a nice thing to do together to encourage each other. So if there is someone that you want to get to do this exercise with you, then just rewind the video and show them it. And if you want to do this on your own, then what I want you to do now is reflect and think, what small changes could you make to move your dots further to the outside of the circle? So for example, if I were looking at my exercise one there, I might think, okay, what small step could I do that would make me feel like I'm doing a bit more exercise that makes me feel good? And I might think, all right, I'm going to get up and go for a walk every morning. So that means me getting up half an hour earlier, and I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk every morning. But the thing is with these is they need to be things that you can actually achieve and you can actually do. So if I think to myself, I'm gonna swim in a pool for an hour every day before school, it's COVID, pools are not open, would I want to be in a pool, have I got an hour before school? That's not really very measurable, very practical. So think really measurable, really actionable. And the point of doing this at this point in the course is so that you can get these habits in place, so that when we come to September, and obviously life will look very different, you've got these habits in place. Because what we know about habits is that once they're established, they don't take any mental effort. So if you think about the fact that you brush your teeth without thinking about it, you get dressed without thinking about it, so we want to get these habits to that point where they're just happening, they're just what you do. So have a think. So you might want to press pause here about what are the small practical action steps that you want to take that are going to move you forward. So again, press pause. This is a good point if you want to. Okay, so this links into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So Maslow, you might have come across before. He was a humanist psychologist, and he came up with this model about what humans need. And it's a good basic model. Lots of people have criticized it. But if I talk you through it, and then I'll talk you through another way of thinking about it. So what Maslow said is that we need to have our physical needs met. So that's food, water, shelter, sleep, daylight, fresh air, and kind of those things that we in this world take for granted. Then we need to feel safe. So obviously in some cultures that would be safe from harm, safe from war, safe from bullying. Some of our kids that come to the school are not safe at home. So it could be physical safety, but that also can include stress, feeling. So when we're feeling super stressed, we don't feel safe, and so that might be a problem. So what Maslow said is that you can't go up to the next level until the bottom level. So you can't, while people will take risks to get food and drink, even if it puts them in a dangerous situation, because without food and drink, you're not going to survive. Then you need to feel safe. And only then, when you feel safe, can you start to feel like you belong. So belong, you probably got a little bit of a sense of that with Kate when you came in, that you had a little sense of belonging. But then that will develop over time. It might have still felt a bit strange, and you obviously didn't know each other well. So you've got to think about it'll happen over time, and then you'll have your departments, and you'll feel like the outsider for a bit, and then you'll feel like you belong. So your sense of belonging, but remember as well, you've got senses of belonging outside of school. You've got your friends, your family. So then Maslow said once that's in place, then your self-esteem can start to come up. So if you think about that in terms of school, then once you kind of know who the people are and you feel safe, then you'll start to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm kind of enjoying this. And then aiming towards self-actualization, which is where my definition of this, his definition is pretty woolly. Self-actualization for me is when you're being the best of yourself and you're bringing that best self to the world in the way that the world needs it. Okay, so that's one way of thinking about it. Another way of thinking about these things are to think about them as a kind of bar chart, so that we all need a little bit of, those things might go up and down in any one day. but they're things that, and we all need them to different extents. So that is probably the sort of stuff you've got on your wheel. If that has triggered any thinking, if you think, oh, I hadn't remembered that hanging out with my friends makes me feel well, or that, self-actualizing might be playing the piano. You might be an amazing pianist or footballer, or you might really feel good in yourself when you're reading, and you haven't got that on your well-being wheel, then go back and add those in. And again, press pause while you're doing that. And then again, welcome back. If you want to, then just put a dot on the line and think about how you can make sure you've got those in place. Because what we're doing here, you'll be doing a whole lot of planning next year. You'll be planning curriculum stuff, you'll be planning lessons, you'll be planning essays, and I want you to plan for well-being too, because without your well-being, you all have had times in your life before where you've just been really ill, whether that's just been for a day or longer, and you just know that you can't do anything, you can't function. So, the underlying everything that you do in school has got to be well-being, and we've got a plan for that. Okay. So hopefully now you've all got an idea of, these are the things that make me feel well, this is how well I'm doing at meeting those needs, and these are some small steps I can take to make that even better. And then this model, as you can see, is Kurt Lewin's model. So if you think about, the desired state is to be healthy and well. Okay, and this task that we're doing is the green arrows, where we've been trying to increase that. How can we increase that? But we all know there'll be restraining factors that will stop us doing that. So we're going to just play around. So again, you might want to draw this model. You obviously don't have to do it as beautifully as this. You might just want to put a kind of line down the middle of the page saying, yeah, well-being. And then we're going to start on the restraining forces side. So they're the brown arrows in this, which are going from right to left. The restraining forces are, what are the things that might stop you prioritizing your well-being? So I've got kids. Obviously kids are a great way to not let you. So if you've got very young kids, you might, the reality is that you may not be getting the amount of sleep that you need. If you've got older kids, it may be that actually you're constantly shopping. I've got teenagers in the house who seem to eat a lot, and so that might take time. Or so have a think about some of the way that relationships might block you from moving forward. So again, you might have partners who are used to having you do everything for them, or you might have parents or friends who expect a lot of you. So just spend a minute thinking about the relational, so the people who might, with all the best, they might be on restraining and on the driving, so don't worry about it, and this is private, no one can see you doing it. So who are the people, or what are the relationships which actually might be quite challenging for your well-being as we go forward? So just have a think about those and press pause. Okay, so we'll just leave the relational bit there, but then I want you to think about the habits. Okay, your habits. So we all get into habits that are helpful or unhelpful. So for example, an unhelpful habit that you might have is you do wake up quite early in the morning, but you reach for your phone, and then before you know it, half an hour has gone scrolling when you could have gone out for exercise. Or it might be that one glass of wine turns into 3 glasses of wine at night, and so then you eat crisps. The thing that we all do. So what are the habits that you have? Or again, it might be part of a family pattern. What are the habits that might stop you from feeling less than brilliant? So I'm going to pause if you want. And then the final one is your internal beliefs. So we all carry around lots of nonsense in our heads that we've kind of made up ourselves about the world, or often that we've heard other people say. So a classic one is, oh, that would be selfish if I, told the kids to leave me alone for 15 minutes when I got home from school. Or, it'd be really selfish for me to, cook a really nice breakfast for myself on a Saturday and eat it on myself before everyone gets up. You might have a thought in your head that you're really selfish, or you might have another thought in your head that you shouldn't, or you should, or that you have to, or that you must, or that you mustn't. So often those kinds of words come into play about you don't deserve to, or you can't afford to, or there isn't enough time to. So again, just list all the restraining forces that are in your head. Okay, so obviously press pause if you're not ready to move on. And then what we're going to have a look at is how to manage those. So with people, let's go back to the people. So if you have, if the traditional pattern in your relationship with whoever you live with is that you do everything, cooking, washing, ironing, then one of the things you might have to spend your summer doing is negotiating a change in those roles, stepping back from some of the things that you would normally do. You might have to do a bit of training of what you want them to do, and you might have to really manage your internal, but they're not doing it right, and I want them to do it like this, because in order for you to pick new stuff up in September, you're going to have to let some stuff go. So that might be one thing. With children, if you've got children at home, you might want to think about, okay, obviously you do want to spend time with the children, but you might think just about who've you got as backup for support if you need a bit of time to do an essay, or you need a bit of time to do planning. Who are all the people in your circles that could help you? Okay, so just spend a minute thinking about how you could practically manage some of those relationships, so that they may not be perfect, they may still feel like restraining forces at times, but that they feel a bit better. So again, press pause. Okay, and then we're now going to move on to do the habits. So how could you break those habits? So if you're a reach for the phone when you first get up person, it may be that you have to change the location of the phone so that you don't pick it up until you're walking out of the house with your walking boots on for your 15 minutes walk. Or if you're a oops, I've had 3 glasses of wine rather than 1 glass of wine, you might want to get into the habit of, having alcohol-free nights, or where the bottle, has to be put down the bottom of the garden once you've had your 1 glass of wine. So what habits, how can you change your habits? So I'll wait a minute or press pause. Okay. And then the final one is maybe the hardest one, about the internal thoughts. And this one's going to take a bit more practice. So if you have a thought that you're going to basically counter argue the thought. So if you had a thought that it's selfish to take time out for yourself and go and have a long hot bath, I want you to flip that over and ask yourself, in what ways isn't it selfish? So for example, you might decide it's not selfish because you're modeling to your children good self-care. It means you're going to be in a better mood. It means you've got more energy for them. It means you're not going to be as shouty with them. Okay, so there usually is opposites that we can counter argue. So just if you've got a belief that you should always be available to your friends by text all through the night, then you might want to flip that and say, why shouldn't you be available? What are the reasons? Why would it be good to not be available for your friends all through the night? So just flip your question over and see if there's an opposite truth. And so press pause just while you're doodling on that. Okay, and then with all of these, the restraining forces, we're about to leave the restraining forces. I want you to put together now a list of I am statements. So I am going to get up and go for a walk. I am going to indulge myself in a bath because it's good for me. I am going to talk to John about doing the dishes, etc. So you're going to frame it as I am, and if you catch yourself going to say try, then try usually means I don't want to enough. Okay, because if you think about if I try to put my hands in the air, how do I do that? I'm either putting my hands in the air or I'm not putting my hands in the air. If I try to, then nothing's happening. So if you catch yourself going, oh, I'm going to try and go for a 20-minute walk every morning, that's not going to happen, is it? So then think again and think, what is the thing that you can commit to? Because what I want you to have at the end of this is a list of committed statements of I am going to. Okay, so again, press pause while you do that. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the other side now and look at the driving forces. So again, you might find people in both places. So again, who are the people, which are the relationships who are going to really help and support you at this time? So think, you know, extended family, close family, friends, colleagues, you know, ex-mentors, current mentors. Who are the people that are really going to support you getting through this year, support your well-being, pick up the pieces, you know, make you a cake, walk the dog, look after the children, give you a laugh? Who are those people? So just take a minute to write those people down. Okay, and then which habits have you already got which are brilliant? So obviously brushing your teeth is a brilliant habit. What are the other ones that you do that really look after your well-being? So you might be really organized, you might be someone who already does a fair amount of exercise, you might be someone that kind of makes sure they drinks enough water. So what are all the habits that you've already got which are really healthy and good for you? Okay. And then the final one is, and what this is your positive mental attitude. What are the thoughts and beliefs that you already have? So you might be completely determined. Teaching is what I've always wanted to do. You know, I'm so pleased to be here. What are the thoughts? You know, I should be doing this. It's okay to be doing that. What are the positive thoughts that you already have that you might know? I'm good at this. You know, I've had experience of that. I did all right in this situation. So think about your previous work life or your studying life and go, right, yeah, I know I can do this. I know I can do that. So what are all the positives? So make a list of those. Okay. And now, with these ones, these are all our positives, we're going to look at how can you maximize them. So for example, if we look at relationships, you might have a load of people who would be really happy to pick the kids up after school for you if you need them to, but maybe you're not so good at asking. So one way that you can increase the impact of those positive people would be to ask them for help. Equally, there may be, so how can you maximize those people? There may be people who are really good at listening to you when you're having a problem. So how can you maximize the impact they have? Well, by reaching out often. With relationships and people, it's about allowing ourselves to accept the help, and lots of us are not so great at doing that. So just spend a minute on how could you maximize those, what those people have to offer you and those strengths. Okay, press pause if you need a bit more time. And then we're going to look at the habits. So how can you maximize those habits? How can you keep them going? How can you, you know, sometimes it's just, you know, giving yourself a pat on the back. That's what I do. Like maybe this exercise of going, oh yeah, I have these good habits in place. So maybe it's just recognizing that. How can you really reinforce your habits, the positive habits? So press pause if you need to. Okay, and then finally, those kind of those thoughts, the positive thoughts. How can you maximize those? How can you really make sure that they're going to work for you? So one of the nice ways to do that is just to have loads of positive I am, I can statements posted up around your house. You might want to have them in a little booklet. You might want to turn them into a screen share of I know I can, I know I am. But just have some thinking time about how you can really build on your positive thoughts. Okay. And then, you know, the last step is to turn it into I can statements. So I am going to ask Pat to pick up the children on Sunday, and I'm going to ask John to walk the dog on Monday. Okay, so what are the positive things? I'm going to statements. So then press pause. Okay. So Because what we're going back to, remember, is you really feeling welcome and really feeling ready to start your teacher training. So hopefully by the end of this work that you've just spent some time doing, you've got an idea of kind of where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are when it comes to your well-being. And you've seen that actually thinking about it, and what we did then were little coaching exercises. So I'm not, I have got lots of therapy experience and qualifications, etc. But the reason that I practice coaching in school is because coaching looks at problem solving, and it's very forward looking and solution focused, which is what we've just done. We've just worked and we've looked at your strengths and how to build on those, and we've looked at your weaknesses and the threats and how to minimize those. And that's how we'll be working in the sessions. It's not anything that I do to you. I would always share models like I just have then, and have you work through them. So I want you to just think about, press pause one last time. If you were a fairy godmother and you can give yourself 3 wishes that are realistic wishes. So, you know, I would love, my loving at the moment is I'd love a horse. Not a chance, no money, no land, and I can't ride a horse. But so that wouldn't be a fairy godmother. This is a realistic fairy godmother. But you might, for example, think that you really would like, you know, that you're to reach this time next year feeling fit and well. So think of 3 wishes that are realistic for you to do with your well-being. Okay. And then really focus on those. You know, really, you might want to draw them, you might want to doodle them, you might want to create a well-being file. You're going to have enough files, but you know, a notebook is often quite a nice way to do the work that you do with me. Lots of people have kind of notebooks that they bring to the sessions that they just want to doodle on or think of ideas. So again, really sorry for not being in your meeting, but hopefully doing it this way actually is an interesting one, isn't it? There's something lovely. If we'd have done this in the room, you'd have been able to share and talk to the people next to you, and you'd have got to know them a bit better. And that definitely has its strengths. And yet doing it this way also has its strengths, because you have time to do it at your own pace and to think about it. So I guess where that leaves us is that there is no thing as perfect. And I think for me, that's one of the really things to think about in teaching, is that however this year goes, there's not one way, there's not one solution, and you know, you need to know that you're well supported. You've obviously met all the people on the team, so know that we've got you, we'll get you through this, and it'll be fun. Okay, nice to meet you. Oh, look at my hair. That's what happens when you haven't been to the hairdressers. Bye.